Welcome to the Noclip podcast, episode 118. Danny's back. Sorry, folks. Danny's back. All the Jesse fans are gone again. We've lost thousands of listeners. The Garashaites are out of here. Thanks very much for holding up the show, everybody. Last week it was fun to hear about Cocaine Bear and Conker's Bad Fur Day, all of the classic current games. That's the beauty of the Noclip podcast. It's just what we're working on. This week we're going to talk about a lot of games. We're going to talk about Dredge. We're going to talk about Dwarf Fortress. Some other bits and bobs here and there. Delighted to be joined by the regular vanilla crew. Vanilla in every sense of the word. Look at us, pale-skinned motherfuckers. Jeremy Jane, windy. What's going on in California? It's March and we still have fucking oceans of water getting dunked on us and wind blowing our buildings over. What is happening?
It was so rainy yesterday that a turkey took refuge on my porch under the very small overhang, which I was fine with until he started shitting violently all over my porch, and I had to chase him out of there. And I felt kind of bad because he obviously didn't know he'd done anything wrong. So I imagine in his head he was kind of like, "What did I do? Like, what? I just got here."
That's just shit on your porch. That's what. Yeah, where else?
I'm a turkey. That's what I do.
That's what I do. I shit. And you eat me, but not this time of the year. He's like,
So-
I know it's 6 months from Thanksgiving. You're not.
He was in the safe zone. Yeah, exactly. You can't get farther from Thanksgiving.
My goodness. Frank, any turkeys shit on your porch this week?
No. Although I usually have a segue with turkey, but I got nothing. Thanksgiving's not for a while away.
Exactly. Yeah, we've got. You could. What's best game with a turkey in it?
I mean,
is it South Park?
Yeah, South Park is definitely the one.
That South Park game was great. Was it N60? It was PlayStation 1 and N64?
I think it was on both consoles. I only played the N64 version.
That game had some Silent Hill ass draw distance, especially when you played 4-player. It was just, you could see about 2 feet in front of you. I think it was ridiculous. I guess makes sense. Silent Hill or South Park, lots of snow and whatnot. Massive thanks to all our Battle Pass holders. Let's get them out of the way before I forget. James Brown, Jason Drury, Cody Krieger, Sven Huster, Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fagan, Cameron Ladd, George Dakotas, Jacob Godserve, and Toyer Tilyav. I tried to get them all out in one breath there, and I couldn't do it because of the Cameron Ladd in the middle. It sort of threw me off. I just spent a week up in Northern America,
Northern North America, as it's called.
That implies it's like you have to be in like Nova Scotia or Alaska, I think, for that. I wasn't that far north, but I was in Kitsap County on the Olympic Peninsula, underneath the beautiful shadow of Mount Olympus, which always makes me laugh. It's like, is the Parthenon up there as well? Did I just have lots of, I don't know how far this Greek action goes, but up there recording with the Adams brothers, all Dwarf Fortress. Also checked in with Gavin Eisenbeitz, who you remember from the Choo Choo Charles interview we did on his podcast a while ago. Interviewed him about Choo Choo Charles and his father. Interviewed Zach Adams' wife. Loads of family shit. It was a good time. But I did not play Dwarf Fortress last week, Frank. That was you. I have never had a gameplay job that I felt more guilty about sending you on. Not that Dwarf Fortress isn't a fun game, but that it is perhaps the highest barrier to entry imaginable. I want to know. I was in the world of Dwarf Fortress, but you were in there making fortresses. What was your experience getting to grips with this incredibly strange, esoteric dwarf colony scene?
Yeah, so Dwarf Fortress had been on our radar. I feel like 6 months, a long time. Like we knew it was coming, and I don't know. I'm not honestly. I'm not like a huge fan of like sim games or games that require like hyper analytical like thinking. It's like I usually when I come to games, I'll turn my brain off. So I had done every other gameplay job like in our pipeline to where now I'm like, there's nothing else for me to do but to tackle Dwarf Fortress. So even like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, there was like 2 friends of mine who are into Dwarf Fortress. I started asking them about stuff, and they were already teasing me like, oh, I don't know how you're gonna play this. thankfully, I also like looked up Steam guides and Reddit stuff, but then when you start Dwarf Fortress, there's actually a really good tutorial, and the game itself has
that is new.
a really in-depth like encyclopedia, and it's like, oh, okay, so. And even when you start a fortress, it gives you a caravan full of supplies to start building. So really, it is like, I don't know, I almost want to equate it to it's like The Sims. It's like, okay, yeah, new neighbors are moving in.
Were you like psyched out? Like, did you think it was going to be tougher because everyone was kind of like, oh,
yeah. So maybe that was it. I built it up so much in my head, like at that. By the time I played, I was like, oh, this is actually like cute and harmless. This isn't so bad, and it's legitimately, I don't know, it's so silly because you just see. The animation, you just see these dwarves running around and just doing things on their own, and it's like you don't have to command them as much as you would think. You assign roles and stuff, and you dig, and they dig manually. So I messed around with like a tutorial starting zone, my own world, for like maybe 30 minutes to an hour. But like, okay, if I'm actually going to build anything, it's going to take a lot of time. So what I did for our gameplay capture is a similar approach to what I did for our Roller Coaster Tycoon doc. Is there is a huge hardcore community. So let me see what's out there, what's online. And I found a website, and I'll get this link so we can attribute it. But where people are just uploading all of their fortresses and maps. So I got a big collection of fortresses. So I went in. It's almost like MTV's Cribs. It was like, all right, let me take a look at everyone's fortresses. And so I think I surfed maybe about 10 to 12 fortresses, and I can always get more. But like every single thing I looked at had a completely different layout, a different like environmental thing. There was one fortress I found where the center was like a volcano or just magma. So they had to build their entire fortress surrounding giant lava pits. And I was like, okay. Another one was one interesting approach. Most dwarf fortresses are underground. There was like two different maps where people made skyscrapers. So where it was like giant like Lord of the Rings towers,
like into a mountain or something.
Yeah, they just built up and up and up, and I was like, okay, so that's kind of different. Some people, there was one world that was entirely pink. They just made everything pink. So like it was kind of interesting to see the variety. And then of course my favorite thing is. It's just looking at all the character stats and histories. Like, I can't believe the generated, like, character sheets for all of these characters. It tells everyone's histories.
Insane.
There's like, dwarf children. There's children zombies. There's so many different, like, iterations of stuff.
What was the story your friend told you about the kids in the wall?
Yeah, let me pull up my friend. So my friend Jordan Jones, who, like, he's the one who always goes hardcore with Minecraft, Valheim, like, any kind of base building game. He is a... like systems analyst, like a hardcore tech guy. He built the computer I'm running on. So I asked Jordan, like, hey, can I use your Dwarf Fortress map? And so he sent me his save, and he gave me incredible context. Let me try to find it. Oh yeah. So he said the child walled in on layer 26 is a were-lizard who will turn into a lizard every full moon. Same with the girl walled up on level 17. I couldn't get the kids to listen to me, and they were just playing make-believe a lot. It was frustrating they wouldn't burrow, so I ended up walling them up. They start to starve to death, but fully heal every month when they turn. Zazit, the kid on layer 26, has been stricken with melancholy and wanted to kill himself for years, but I guess they are immortal. So yeah, and then there are dead monkeys and bones of monkeys everywhere. No idea why we had a monkey infestation, but I got crazy killing so many of them. I think there were so many corpses everywhere. Most people are desensitized to seeing them now. So every dwarf fortress you go to, there's just so many random generated stories like that. But yeah, my friend's base had were-lizards walled up in their own little tombs, and
it's amazing. I love is it miasma or something they call it? There's like a word for like the detritus of death that like you get. It's like a cloud of death, which happens in Dwarf Fortress.
Oh,
that
yes.
Sometimes the dwarves get like used to, or like brings them down, and then suddenly they go off and like they go work on a work. Like they'll go like make a beautiful work, because they could just go and craft things, and they'll make like, oh, it's a belt buckle, and then the detail on the belt buckle in the game says like, oh, it's a belt buckle with engravings of such and such, and like it shows the battle of blah blah blah, and it's like a way of them dealing with their trauma. It's so weird. But you're right, like it's a funny game. Like the game itself, when you just look at dwarves fortresses happening, is like largely without context. It's like, oh, it's just like watching an ant colony. But like you have to kind of go in there, and you're like the player is part of the storytelling, because you you kind of will story to happen a little bit, right? And I talked to Tarn about that as well. He was like saying like sometimes people will say, oh, that happened because of that and that happened because of that, and he'll be like, not really, but it's okay that you thought that, because there are other things that are happening systemically that you'll never see probably, or you won't notice. So the storytelling part of it is like so important. That's awesome. Thanks for doing that, dude. I've had a similar journey for the past year or so, just getting to grips with it. And you're gonna film, it sounds like, at PAX East at the Dwarf Fortress get together they're doing there.
Yeah, so the Friday night of PAX East, I think it's like March 26th or whatever that Friday.
Yeah,
is.
I don't know if it's public or not, so let's not
yeah.
do it overly
Oh, yeah.
specific. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what the deal is with
I
it.
did see on the Steam page they are selling tickets to it. So
okay.
So
then
if
it
you go
is.
to
All right,
if you go to Dwarf Fortress's Steam page, they have the event. But yeah, there'll be a Dwarf Fortress community party. So yeah, I was already planning going to PAX East. I already have a few interesting appointments booked for games and stuff to check out. But yeah, the timing there, I can ask the community, how do you play this game? Or
ask them like their craziest stories and all that sort of stuff for sure. I asked Tarn to clear up the thing about the mermaid bones, which I think I talked about on this before. There was a time where there was one of my favorite Dwarf Fortress stories is about this guy who presumably accidentally stumbled upon a dead mermaid and harvested its bones, because you have to butcher animals to get their beings to get their innards, and found that mermaid bones were incredibly expensive. So he set up a lagoon that was tidal or something, or that he could like block off where the mermaids would get beached there, and then he would send out the dwarfs to murder the mermaids while they were stuck, because they can breathe over in water and out of water. Obviously, they're mermaids. And it's Dwarf Fortress, so they all have eyelids as well, presumably. And then he would butcher them and harvest their mermaid bones. And there was like a story in the Dwarf Fortress community that this got patched or something. The mermaid bones weren't as worthwhile. And the lore within the community is that Tarn was so upset that they would kill creature. What do you call like a being that has like a sense of itself?
Sentient?
What is that?
Like a sentient creature.
Sentient, yeah, sentient being. It wasn't just killing like a rabbit or something. That you shouldn't be harvesting mermaids. So I asked him about that. So that was fun. And also, so there's loads of like inside baseball. We went guitar shopping for a reason that we'll get into in the documentary. We covered a lot of like his personal life. It's very much about him and Zach as people. We talked about like how they talk about the game, and while we were there, they also got like a bunch of concept art for some of the, I can't say what it was, but like for some of the different versions of some of the creatures kind of thing. And so we got their like live reactions to that. And also I gave him Dwarf Fortress on a Steam Deck for the first time. It was the first time we played that, so that was quite funny. So yeah, there's going to be a lot in the stock. It's going to be good fun. And the Choo Choo Charles one as well was really, really interesting. That guy is he's just kind of sharp. He's wise beyond his ears a little bit, I think, and really stuck the landing on that. So Jeremy, you're going to be editing that one. I think there's a great amount of like design talk about how he set up the world and everything, but there's also like some cool sort of history of him and how he grew up and all that sort of stuff, which is pretty neat. Good stuff. One game that reminded me of, which I don't know if you guys have played more of, but I've played a good bit more of, is Sons of the Forest. Have you guys jumped in anymore?
Just a little bit. I tried to convince my friends to play it with me and could not kindle an interest. But yeah, no, I haven't played it since we talked about it.
Yeah, because I started playing with Dennis. Dennis has done a bunch of Noclip stuff in the past. We're kind of looking for a new game, and we did that, although he lost his character because I was saving all the time because I was the host and I thought I was saving the server, but I think you just save progression of your character or something. I hadn't played the original game online, so when he came back in, he had to do the intro again and everything. It was like, oh, where's all my shit? But yeah, we've been really enjoying it. We had a creepy, I don't want to talk too much about like spoilers in that game because there's a lot of like early game stuff that happens. It's a bit like, oh, that's weird. So we've seen some of that. But we had like this weird ballerina woman. Have you seen her?
Yeah.
That's fucking, Dennis butchered her like
What?
a mermaid. Yeah. He was like at a certain point, he was like, she's freaking me out too much. So I walked over and he was beating her to death. And I was like, but she was so beautiful. And she just came by our camp with her 4 legs and 4 arms and did like little ballerina dances. And he was like, no. Shut the fucking go, man.
She is alarming. To Dennis's credit, it is alarming to see a woman with extra limbs in the forest.
Yeah, it's very... and she doesn't like when you walk up with weapons. And so it's like that weird thing of like, who's meant to be scared of who?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what's that about.
Yeah, that was cool. It was interesting trying to figure out what kinds of things the AI respond to in that game. Because even though it's, I had played a bunch of The Forest, and it is very similar in terms of the core loop of, gathering and fighting off cannibals. But it was interesting to kind of suss out like how much the AI has developed since then and what kinds of things it'll respond to. And then having a different type of AI, it was like, do I need to be very sensitive about scaring this person? Is, once you figure out that it's not another type of enemy that's gonna like crab walk to your base and eat you.
Right. Yeah, there's like more variety too, because I've seen, I've met like there are the cannibals, but then there's like kind of more feral ones or something. They're kind of like tree people, or they kind of look more like apes that have evolved rather than people who have devolved or something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, it's a fucking weird game though. It's good times. It's the diegetic inventory is one of the funniest things I've ever seen because it's so big.
It's so big. Yeah, you roll out your big ass backpack. Yeah, you dump out your Jansport on the ground.
Yeah. You have to like really rotate the camera to see like where your crossbow is, or like this.
Yeah.
I kept like looking for like it's like the Resident Evil inventory Tetris, but applied to like Skyrim levels of shit that you're carrying. It's just absurd.
It reminds me of, you ever have one of those dreams where you're like a stress dream where you're packing for a trip and you're like, I don't remember if I packed that thing, and then you have to open your whole suitcase and take everything out. It's that every time I check my inventory. I'm like, all right, my toothbrush is here and I've got like 4 pairs of underwear. And like,
yeah. And there's so many weird like little things they have. Like there's an LED light system. Did you see that? You can turn the lights on, and then it has RGB, so you could just like change the color.
It's so
you could
elaborate.
Just have it neon pink at nighttime or whatever. Yeah, it's so silly. And learning how to build things, like, because it's weird, because there's like some stuff that you like craft in that. And then even the recipes, the way they do it is different. It's very like, it's kind of nice. It's like, you don't just like pick from a book and you can tell what the things are. It's kind of like, no, you have to like put the 2 sticks down and put the thing down and then hit the button. But then like if you want to make effigies, like that's not done in that system. That's like, oh no, you have to put a stick down. There's the book that literally says, put the stick in, like, and then put the rotten head on top of that, so.
That's the recipe for effigies.
A lot of rotten heads. I had a rotten leg. Tried to cook
nice.
it. Didn't work. Rotten leg. Had to throw it away. Threw it in our closest water source.
What a waste.
Yeah, exactly. Now we got a stew going.
We got a stew river.
Brewing it. Jeremy, I want to talk about a video game, and I think you played it finally for the first time. I should say finally. It's not even out yet. But
finally 2 weeks before its release, you got around to it.
I kind of talked a little bit on Twitter. I gobbled this game up. I know Jesse did as well, of course. Dredge.
Yeah.
So you played a bit of it last night. What do you make of Dredge? What is Dredge?
So Dredge is a fishing game, but I think that's violently underselling what it actually is. It is I would describe it as a fishing and sort of like inventory gear management game. We were going from a fishing village out to these like shoals of fish and doing like a little kind of fishing timing mini game. But while you're doing that, you're watching the clock and you're managing like what nets and fishing rods you're running, what engines you're running, trying not to crash the boat because that will disable your gear and things like that. And basically watching the clock to try to get back before the sun goes down, because Dredge is not just an ordinary fishing game. It is a sort of it has a prevalent sort of like Lovecraftian atmosphere to the whole thing. It's got this spooky kind of mysterious, vague bad things happen after dark kind of tone to it. And I've played like 2-3 hours, so the extent to which that I have no idea how Lovecraftian, how like spooky this actually gets, which is kind of nice because it like, I obviously know it's just not just a fishing game rather, but it's fun when those little bits of mystery get added on. It's like, oh, bet you didn't know this could happen, and then it gives you like these little fishing tales where you're like, oh, I was out late one night fishing up flounders, and then like I saw something out there.
Have you seen any? Yeah, I'm going to be very light on
Yeah.
on what I've sort of experienced later. I've completed it. I ate it up, absolutely ate it up. Could not put it down. I did it in like 4 days, just nonstop.
Nice.
I absolutely, it's one of my favorite games of the year so far. Easily, it'll be in my top 10. But have you had any spooky nighttime experiences? Anything happen?
Yeah. I guess this happened in like the first hour, so I think this is okay to talk about. I was out really late, so I kind of didn't know what happened late at night. Like the clock icon changes so that there's like a spooky eye, and people were just like, "Don't be out after dark," and I was just like, it was freaking me out because
Spill your beans.
yeah, exactly. Willem Dafoe told me I should come back before dark. So it doesn't really tell you what's going to happen. And so I was the two things I'll mention that happened sort of your like first encounter with it being dark is obstacles will kind of like appear out of the water in your way.
Isn't that weird?
Which can be very, very dangerous because it can actually disable your motors. So I had a rock pop up in the middle of the night, maybe like 40 minutes into the game, and it disabled one of my motors. And so all of a sudden, I'm not only rushing back to base, but I'm going half speed.
Yeah.
It was just terrifying. And then the other thing that I saw out there very early in the game was like another boat, but like a scary, dark, evil, like a dark tinted version of my boat, like a spooky, evil, haunted boat. So yeah, I don't know what to make of that, but I don't like it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's kind of like what the vibe of it is a lot. It's not really showing its hand entirely. Like I loved the fact that, like you said, like the obstacles, like because you get a sense of the world around you, and in daytime everything's lit so you can see really far, but at nighttime there is like almost like a fog of war, like a mist that sort of descends, and you have your ship is weird, right? Because the ship that you have, it almost looks like that Resident Evil inventory where you have like a certain amount of space where when you fish for fish, they take up space and you have to like Tetris them into the where you are on the boat, which is super clever. But then there were specific parts of it like where, oh, this is a place for nets. This is a place where like engines, and you can upgrade engine pieces by selling the fish to basically upgrade your boat. And you can really upgrade your boat. Like by the end, your boat is much, much bigger and has much more stuff on it and has better lights and things like that. So you can like, your lights can get damaged and your lights turn off, and then you're in trouble because you start getting a bit psychotic and stuff. But yeah, stuff like the fact that like, I don't think that rock was there before.
Yeah.
Like it's like a little freaky thing. You're like, was that me, or was that, I don't think there was a rock right there in the middle of the ocean. And that it's a very like fisherman sort of folk tale-y thing, right? That like, oh, there was the cliffs moved or something.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it reminds me of that subtlety in the way it messes with you reminds me of kind of like an old fisherman's tale in an interesting way. Like I think the game could have been almost as interesting and done something where it just, there's like a damage over time after it gets dark or something where your health ticks down, or there's like a sanity meter that just kind of fills up gradually or whatever. But it's interesting how they just kind of like thrust things into the world to give you these little anecdotal moments because they kind of haunt you, right? Like then the next time you're out fishing, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You're like, I've seen shit out here, man. I don't want to be here after dark.
Any port in a storm, right? You're kind of like, and that's what's funny is that like the ports end up becoming like, it's very Breath of the Wild-y. I know that's kind of trite to say, but it is, right? Because it's very like, you have the whole map from the start. You can just go anywhere, but there are large bodies of water, and I don't think with like the default engines you'd feel very confident trying to get to, there's sort of like a set of different islands in the world, and they all have their own look to them, kind of like any open world game. You go somewhere else and maybe this is a different, it's a volcanic island, maybe this is more of a, I don't know, like a lagoon or something, whatever. But they all have their own thing going on, which is cool, and their own types of fish and things like that, so it's very interesting. But yeah, it's very Breath of the Wild in that like you're sort of always keeping an eye on where your nearest campsite is or your nearest like port, and then the time is a big, it's like Silent Hill kind of thing as well, where like you can fish at nighttime, but like it's kind of tricky. And then also there's like special fish that come out at nighttime sometimes. And have you gotten your dredging equipment yet? Because that opens up some of the game. Yeah, so then you can not just fish, you can go to places where there are sunken ships and dredge the ground for stuff. How do you find the mini games? At the start I was like, oh, it's gonna be mini games for fishing all the time, but I got weirdly into them. There's something rhythmic about the whole thing.
Yeah, they're very satisfying. The way my brain works is basically that if I'm not immersed in the game, I'll like in any game, I'll start dissecting the kind of mini games. Like if I play like a big AAA open world game, it doesn't matter how beautiful the graphics are. If I'm not immersed in like the story and the sense of place in the world, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I just got to go over here and do like homework. I got to do chores over here. But yeah, I liked the atmosphere of this game so much that I didn't really mind it. It's kind of I'm trying to think how to describe it. It's like there's little mini games for the fishing that kind of change depending on what type of fish you're going for. But it's like an indicator that spins around and you're trying to hit it when it goes into certain sections of the circle. So it's kind of like a timing thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't really mind it. It's very quick and it's kind of like there's a small window of mastery. Like you can get really good at it. It's very satisfying, but it never takes enough time that I saw it as kind of like a hassle or anything. It's just a little bit of challenge here and there.
And one of the cool things about it that reflects the sort of like the balance of horror in this game is very clever because it does like during the day, a lot of the time, like some of the people in the towns are weird because you go into these towns and they're just like, it's like a menu system where you can go to different buildings and like talk to the ship builder or talk to the fishmonger, but then the fishmonger is like a creepy guy kind of picture pops up and stuff like that, where it's like everything's normal until something weird happens and then you're reminded that, oh yeah, things aren't really normal here. Like one of the ways you'll do that is sometimes you'll pick up like a fucked up fish. Yeah. Like this fish has like one huge all-seeing eye. You're like,
yeah, or like a bunch of weird bumps on its entire body, like it's been infested with some sort of dark parasite.
Exactly, and then like the fishmonger is like, oh yeah, bring me them, yeah, I'll pay you better for them. So then you end up like searching for these fucked up fish, but then like you'll find them, and you're just like, they all look grotesque in a very like unnatural way.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, what happened to you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the like collecting of different items also reminds me of Breath of the Wild. Like it reminds me of going into a new area and seeing, oh, there's like a different type of mushroom here, and then being curious about the loop of like, I wonder how much more money that gets me, and what kind of other little story economy things that affords me. Yeah, Breath of the Wild is actually a really good comparison, but it's like Breath of the Wild, but it has that thing of
it's like Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, true. That's I guess Wind Waker is the easier comparison.
Yeah.
But it reminded me a little bit. This is a weird comparison, but I'll justify it. Of Divinity: Original Sin 2. Once you reach the main like world, the actual world map of Divinity, because once you've completed Divinity: Original Sin 2, it's like a 120-hour game, but the map isn't that large. Like it feels it feels huge. Like when you're playing the game, it feels massive. But once you've completed it and you look at the whole thing, you're like, oh, I could walk end to that and like in not that much time. But what it does very well is the density of the world is very high. Everywhere you go, there's something to do, and it feels like a significant little outing any direction you go. When you go to a new place, even if you find one little shed with one guy in it, it's like, oh, I had a whole adventure. Like I found that guy and he told me this story and these things happened. And I feel like Dredge is that, where it's like you look at the map and it's kind of just these whatever, like 5 sets of islands or something. And you can see the whole I mean, I don't know if the map extends. No spoilers because I'm early in the game. But yeah, the game restrains you enough that each little outing feels like a little kind of like monumental task to survive and see what you get and stuff. And also you move kind of slow, but in a way where it doesn't feel like the game is making you move slow. It feels like this world is like difficult and dangerous to traverse. So it feels like the map isn't huge, but it feels very dense and dangerous. And so, yeah, I don't know. It feels like bigger than it should or something, like Divinity.
Yeah, and I think it has that elasticity as well, where by the time you're near the end of the game and you're sort of, faster and more nimble and stuff like that, the world has also sort of stretched. Like the space between those islands is large enough that you still have to consider, like, oh, will I make it on time?
Yeah.
I don't want to be stuck out there if it turns to night, maybe. There's also this other aspect of it, which is a key, which is the fishing rods themselves, because you upgrade, like I said, the engine, the lights, the nets, stuff like that, because you end up, I won't say what, but there's like, you end up upgrading your ship and getting abilities that sort of extend your ability to harvest fish and do other things like that, right? There's like a weapon wheel type thing that pops up when you're doing things like that gets full. So it's obvious, you know how many like things you're going to get. And by doing these missions for the people, you sort of unlock some of that. And then some other ones you do just by basically picking up scrap and selling it and picking up resources and using them as upgrades. But the fishing rods are interesting because even at the end, you can never have all of the fishing rods, I don't believe, at the same time. There's like an upgrade path thing, and the upgrade thing unlocks different fishing rods you can buy in the store. But like there's different types of fish. There's like oceanic fish and shallows and some other ones that I won't get into that are interesting and different. But you can only fish with the rods that you have equipped on your boat. So sometimes you have to like spec your boat for a certain area or certain mission. I will say that like the missions, it reminded me of Tinykin a lot, where at a certain stage I was sort of on autopilot with the game, where I was just like going to a mission person, getting the mission, going, doing the thing, getting them, going back, and the sort of maybe the immersion got stripped back a little bit, and it felt a bit more like just I was doing my homework, but I loved the homework, so I didn't care. Same as Tinykin. Remember when I was saying at the end of Tinykin, I was like, I really enjoyed that game, but I didn't feel passionately about it. Dredge, I definitely don't feel dispassionate about it. I feel it has more soul and more like, I don't know, it has connected with me deeper than Tinykin did, which is, I always hate saying that because like I loved Tinykin and I love like Peggle, but Peggle doesn't like make me, feel a certain way about a game or whatever. In terms of its like world or immersion or whatever like that. Dredge isn't all the way down near Tinykin, but it's also not all the way up. Like at a certain stage, it did feel a bit more perfunctory, but it definitely a lot more than I needed to enjoy it. And the gameplay loop itself, much like Tinykin, is like perfect. I just thought it was so tight, so sharp, couldn't put it down. Like, definitely got my money's worth. Well, I got a free code, but so I can say that.
So you certainly got your money's worth.
Yeah.
Certainly got my money's worth with my free code. But yeah, it's one of those games where like the minute I played it, I was like, I just want to go tell people to play this fucking game. It's dope. And I've also, there's been some journalist friends who I think got wind of what game I was playing and like jumped in my DMs and were like, you're talking about Dredge, right? Because this game's fucking cool. So it seems like people are into it, which is cool.
Yeah, I found it very relaxing, which I didn't expect.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be more of like constant, Cthulhu nightmares popping up out of the deep and eating you. But it's a very chill game. But I think if it didn't have that sort of spooky, pervasive atmosphere to it, I don't think it would have been nearly as good. It reminds me of like sometimes when I play old survival horror games, I think about if this game wasn't horror, like if Silent Hill 1 wasn't scary, it would be incredibly boring because you're just like walking around environments for a very long period of time. And there's something about horror that draws you into the atmosphere of a game because you're instead of just like instead of looking at an environment like a school or whatever and being like, oh yeah, this is like a classroom, and then your brain kind of shuts off there. In something like Silent Hill, you're like, oh, this is a horrifying school, and I bet that locker is filled with mangled children who are going to attack me.
Yeah. The possibility space.
Yeah, exactly. There's something about horror and the possibility space that it can hold, where you're like, how far will this go? How far are they going to take me down this like spooky trail? And as you're just you're like out collecting fucking strawberries, and you're like, I wonder if like a sea monster is under. Yeah, exactly.
And I think they do a good job of each of the islands you go to has a sort of a central spooky theme that is novel and different. And then also I feel like the number of sort of just random things that can mess with you, like sometimes you get these little, like, I don't know what you call them, like little wind spouts that sort of like little mini tornado kind of things, and sometimes you get like there's other environmental stuff that can like damage you, and they add in new ones of those enough kind of discreetly that you are always kind of watching, like you said, and that maybe not necessarily always getting attacked by something, but you're always watching for something, because like you said, when the boat gets damaged, you get hit, and I don't know if it's random or whatever, but like it basically, the way you look at your inventory when is like I said, there are parts of the like inventory screen where you're putting the fish down that also have where the engine is and where the nets are and where the lights are. And basically, when you get hit, it sort of damages part of that. So if you get damaged where a fish was, the fish goes overboard and you lose that fish. It could easily also be a treasure that you found. Or it could hit your engines, or it could hit, and then the engine part on the inventory screen is like X'd out, and you have to go get that fixed. So you can just have like a rough bit of luck. Like it's that worry of like everything's fine, I'm fishing, everything's good, but if I hit a rock, it might hit my engine, and then if I've only got an hour to get back home, but it's like 3 hours away, then I'm fucked. You know what I mean? It's like everything can go wrong quickly at any moment. So you're kind of like, it's like a fragile balance, but they really did a great job. It feels that way, and like you said, like it's not overly dramatic. And then if you die, it basically just like goes back to the last time you were at a port. I think I only died like once or twice.
Yeah,
maybe.
I died right at the end of like a 3-hour session, and not up until that. And by then I was getting kind of careless because I hadn't died. That I was like, I was tempting fate a little bit. Yeah, the other thing it kind of reminds me of a little, this is a loose connection, but it reminds me a little bit of Citizen Sleeper, a tiny bit.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Because in Citizen Sleeper, you're going between these different areas and kind of like you're navigating story economy essentially. And in this game, I felt like that was kind of the other loop that was keeping me going, was not just going out and getting things and getting money to upgrade the boat to go out and get more things to upgrade the boat. It was also you go to a new place and then there's a new person who's like, oh yeah, here's some spooky things that have happened here. There's like a spooky fish out there. And you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And it gives you this kind of like narrative context for everything you're doing, but it also gives you incentive to kind of go back and visit places and extend your adventure to a new place you haven't been, because it's like, it's not just about inventory and economy, it's also that story economy of like seeing new characters and getting more information about the world. And some of the characters are like I thought, you know, there you got your typical like Shadow over Innsmouth spooky boat people,
right?
But then, yeah, again, we won't spoil anything, but like I went to one island and there was just like a creepy dude in a robe who was talking about like crazy mythical shit. And I was like, oh, okay, this game is going to go, you know, farther than or not farther. Yeah. It's kind of like, that's what I want out of that game, is I want it to start as kind of like the, you know, Newburyport, Massachusetts spooky fishing village. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, and also there's like the creepy cultist people too.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, there's each of the islands has, I would say, in the same way that the central threat maybe changes, that also there's always a discrete person, kind of like an interesting angle, like kind of like what I found in Breath of the Wild when you went to like, you know, the water people had like a certain take on everything, and then the desert people had like a different perspective on stuff to a certain extent. And I thought that like it definitely fleshes out a rounded world. It doesn't just like give you the same like Shadow over Innsmouth stuff again and again and again, but it also, I feel like, does a good job of keeping like a sort of a consistent tone and vibe to the whole thing. Yeah, it seems like a game that they were working on, I don't know, I assume for a while, and they've really found what this game is, and I think it's really super. Dredge is out March 30th, which is 2 weeks from, a week and change maybe from when this goes up. According to the internet, I know it's on Steam because I played it on my Steam Deck. It is a brilliant Steam Deck game. If you have a Steam Deck, this is 100%, just like Tinykin, this is perfect for that. It is also coming out on Switch, so that is also an option. There might be a demo available on Switch. It says there's like a download demo button on Switch. I'm not sure. Oh, there is also. Is there a demo? No, there's not. There's not a demo there. They're selling like a digital deluxe version. Oh, it's got an art book and a soundtrack as well. It's made by Black Salt Games, who in my head they're based in. I have to be careful here. I think it was. I'm going to look it up, actually, because now I don't want to say something stupid. Yeah, they are New Zealand. Yeah, I was going to say New Zealand, but I was worried it was the Australia situation. I'll say the wrong one and be forever castigated, like when people call me Scottish. Happy Paddy's Day, by the way. It's coming up. Yeah. Paddy's, not Patties. Paddy. Paddy's Day. Patrick. Paddy is short for Patrick. Paddy. Enjoy your Paddy's whiskey. Yeah, Black Salt Games. According to Wikipedia, I don't know if this is day and date. I've been trying to look it up here. But it is also apparently coming out for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series as well. Let me look quickly on PSN and see if they have a page with a date. PlayStation Store, Dredge. It does say Yeah, it says the 29th actually of March there. 9 p.m. PT, which would be midnight Eastern, so that makes sense. Yeah, so apparently it's $24.99 there. I feel like it was 30 on Steam. No, it's $25 only.
Oh, nice.
As well.
I thought it was 32. That's awesome.
Yeah, there you go, $25. Team 17 publishing it. There you go. I had to buy Worms. They took it off Game Pass.
Oh, the video game
yeah.
Worms. We were talking about fishing, and so I thought you.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, bait.
Yeah, my mind immediately went to you at a bait and tackle store.
You don't have to buy bait and Dredge, do you? I don't think.
No, you can buy like nets and stuff. Yeah, that'd be kind of annoying if you had to buy bait every time. Yeah.
Is there different types of bait you could put on or something? I don't know. None of that. There you go. Dredge, available soon. Go check it out. Game's fucking rad. We might do a little video. I think me and Jesse are threatening to do a video for Noclip Crew on it, so keep your eyes open for that as well, if we do it. Any other games, gents? Frank, you've been playing some old stuff,
yeah,
right?
I've been very restless with gaming because I'm kind of holding myself for Resident Evil 4. I know like that's gonna be the one I go all in on and probably try to beat in that week. And I'm also leaving for PAX in a week, so I'm kind of just trying to clear my plate and not commit to anything. So I was messing around on Game Pass, and there was 2 games I dived into. Last week I talked about, man, Need for Speed Underground is so good. They should just like make a new one of these. And I was like, oh wait, Need for Speed Unbound, which I found out is by Criterion, who also did all the Burnout games. So I'm like, ooh, how is this? It's also got a like complete anime aesthetic. It's almost like cell shaded. And so I've only put maybe 1 to 2 hours into it, but I'm like, yeah, I think I'll play this for a bit. I'm already hungry to play more. They're also putting out a big update in like 2 weeks, so it's like it just came out like maybe a few months ago. The cool thing I like about it is with Game Pass, EA has a thing where it's like you can play any game for the first 10 hours. So I don't even know if I'll max out 10 hours, but it's like I'm happy playing it as long as it holds my attention. But I do like it because it does have this super colorful aesthetic. There's a day and night cycle, so the daytime is very bright and sunny. The night is very neon. It also kind of has that like Miles Morales, like comic booky, like anime aesthetic. So I like it. The drifting feels weird. It doesn't feel like Forza. It doesn't feel like a sim. It's kind of in between, so I'm still learning it, but it feels good. And same thing, you can do takedowns. There's cop chases, so I feel like I tried Need for Speed like Heat, and I did not like it. So this is better than that. I don't think this is better than Underground, but I do enjoy that. And then the other game I dipped into is I'm so hungry for Resident Evil third-person shooting games that I tried Gears 5, which I never...
Had you ever played it before?
I never touched Gears 5. I played like Gears of War 1. Also super surprised because it's so colorful. Like the first level, you're in like a jungle ruin, and then you're fighting robots, and it's like almost as like
definitely if you're coming from Gears 1, it's definitely just like the brownest game ever made.
So I was so like prejudiced against Gears of War. It's like, yeah, I know what that is, but I was so surprised by it. The other thing that's extremely funny with Gears 5 is there's an option in the settings to replace Marcus Phoenix with Dave Bautista. So
oh my
Batista full on just voices all of Marcus Phoenix. Like it's
really?
A model swap, so you can play the game as Batista.
You're kidding? How did I not know? Maybe I forgot. I don't know. God,
there's
really?
A lot of
Gears 5,
Gears
right?
5. There's a lot of goofy cosmetic stuff in the game. Sarah Connor from Terminator is in the game as a DLC.
What?
I've been playing the Horde mode, which is incredible. It's super fun, and you can play as all the Halo Spartans for whatever reason. You could just... So it has like that same Fortnite energy where it's like, I'm playing Gears of War as Batista. You could power bomb enemies. So you know what?
Do you play as? I thought you played as Kate Diaz in that game.
Yes. So every level there's a different like main protagonist. Like it swaps.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, for a free game to play with co-op, the co-op is neat too because it's the traditional like two buddies in a room, but a third person can play as a robot that like attacks people, revives.
Oh yeah, that's
so it's like
what's it called, Jim?
Yeah.
Or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So it's like I don't know. It's again I'm probably not gonna stick with it, but the Horde mode is pretty fun. So yeah, Need for Speed Unbound, Gears 5, 2 solid things on Game Pass, and then the new
Need for Speed Unbound. That's an interesting one because that game came out 3 months ago and felt like a real hard 7 out of 10 game, like which is why maybe there wasn't so much fanfare on it. But there's definitely been people who've been like sort of shouting its praises, and I think when some of the awards stuff happened and DICE and some other ones, people were like saying Need for Speed Unbound was robbed. I think it has like passionate vanguards in the community. For you, is it a really good driving game, or is it kind of just like, oh, this is like a decent driving game that I will I'll spend some time on this.
It's not like hooking me, but like I feel for whatever reason Forza Horizon 5 just, I don't know if it was the tone, the setting, the like super corporate Microsoft like, hey writers, welcome to Mexico. I bounced off that, so I did not like it. That read lame. Need for Speed Underground is a little bit cheesy too, because it's like, welcome to the writers circle, whatever. The colorful aesthetic is awesome, and so I think it feels sunny. Same thing why, like, I don't know, like Jet Set Radio, Sunset Overdrive. It's just, oh, this is colorful. Yeah, okay. And then I can listen to stuff as I play it. So yeah, I'll dip my toes into it. If I play more, I'll let you know. But it's
same with me and GT7 and Linkin Park. Just gotta watch that over here.
Yes.
I was listening to Tool last night and doing some great GT7, so it's all over the place. We'll get back to you on Fortnite in a second, but I want to hear about Asshole Mario some more.
Oh,
please,
yeah,
yes.
dude. Okay, so I mentioned Kaizo Mario levels on the podcast last week. The one sentence summary for anyone who missed that is that Kaizo Mario levels Kaizo is a word from the Japanese ROM hacking scene. Essentially, these are just obscenely difficult Mario levels, like the kind of Mario levels where it's like you have to bounce on the shell, then hit the 3 Goombas, and then hit the tiny little slot, and then if you don't sprint immediately and drop in the next thing, then you'll lose.
There was a Western version of this a number of years back when we were at GameSpot that Tay used to play called Cat Mario.
Oh, interesting.
Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Cat Mario, but I know Kaizo Mario has its roots much older than that.
Yeah, so the popularization of the term Kaizo. So in Japanese ROM hacking culture, it can refer to any sort of reconfigured or like modified game. But specifically, so the ROM hack that got turned into Asshole Mario was Super Kaizo World, I think it's called, and it was made by a man in Japan in around 2007, I believe.
Right.
And
actually, so interesting. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
go. But interesting. I just looked up Cat Mario because I hadn't seen it in a while. Apparently, this also came out in Japan in 2007 as well.
Interesting.
So there must have just been a moment. I believe it's known as Sayabon Action is the official name of Cat Mario, but it's also known as Cat Mario in the same way that Kaizo Mario is known as Asshole Mario.
Yeah.
So I only know Asshole Mario and Cat Mario.
Okay, cool. So I have continued playing the Kaizo ROM hack known as Quickie World. I'm gonna send you guys a link on Discord. I know this is a audio medium, but I feel like if you guys just play this video at this time link and mute it, and we could watch together. This is a level I completed last night. Everyone get this link open.
I've got it up. It's playing here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the level I completed last night. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in a video game in my entire life, bar none.
Okay, I'm gonna explain this. You're doing a lot of the spin move.
Yes.
Non-stop. There's basically lava and spikes absolutely everywhere, and like a rotating spike wheel at the bottom that you have to keep up to speed with. Kind of like they used to do that in like Super Meat Boy, but like never for this long.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is so long.
It keeps going. It keeps going.
Oh no, that's hell.
It's only like 20-30 seconds, but it is
But you have to do it that way.
You have to do
right?
it that way. So the saw that you do the very first, so in Super Mario World, when you spin jump, you bounce off of some obstacles. And so in this level, there is a saw that goes along the bottom of the entire level. And the only way you can traverse the level is by keeping up with the saw, because the floor is lava the entire time. So you're constantly bouncing, but you have to bounce off to like grab things and do shell jumps and like all these crazy maneuvers. That level is called Sarfing Castle, as in saw surfing, but I misread it the entire time as Sarfring Castle, as in saw suffering. And I think that's more appropriate. I probably did that level, God, I don't know, 500 times.
Wow.
Like some absurd number of times.
How are you playing it? Is it you just download it?
Yeah, so there's a website. So if you look up Quickie World, it is basically a patch that you download, and then you download a ROM of Super Mario World, and then on that same site where you got Quickie World, there's like a patcher, and then you just upload the ROM, upload the patch, and it spits out a new ROM that's the patched version. And it is really fun. If anyone out there downloads Quickie World and if anyone can beat Suffering Castle, I will give you a shout out on the podcast. So,
it kind of reminds me a bit of the Mario Maker stuff.
Yeah, so Mario Maker popularized a lot of the Kaizo stuff because of all the tools. I've looked at, it's like Lunar or something. The tools to make Mario ROM hacks are pretty arcane.
Right.
But Mario Maker made those tools really accessible. So there's a whole new like wave of interest in Kaizo levels because of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know. It's been like an obsession of mine for the last couple of weeks because it's like
Has it anything to do with your game dev or?
I don't know, but like kind
No?
of. There is something in that because I've been working on a lot of these little prototypes, and part of the fun is like nudging these parameters of like if I do a parry, I have 0.4 seconds for that parry for someone to hit my weapon for them to like bounce off and be successfully parried. Otherwise, it's like a missed parry. And I think with platformers, Mark Brown did a really good video on like platformers and tweaking the parameters of like how high the jump goes, how far the jump goes.
Great little tool they made as well, where you can mess with that stuff to see it. I thought I'm sure people use that in like childhood education or something about game design. I think that's pretty cool.
For sure. So the Kaizo stuff is fun to think of because it gives you a real appreciation for, a game that was made in 1990 and and like is to date one of the best feeling platformers imaginable. Like the one of the things that sticks out is the amount of when you bounce off something in Mario, like especially when you do the spin jump, if you then press and hold the jump button, it makes you bounce higher and farther essentially, and you can also let go of that midair to slow your ascent or descent, and so it's a lot about getting this gradual kind of feel for like, okay, I need to bounce hard off of this thing and then immediately ease off so they don't bounce too high. And it's kind of just like, yeah, it's like the thing about the Kaizo levels is introducing you to just how precise and fine-tuned this platforming engine is, because it just, it responds to everything you do. And so sometimes when you're playing normal Mario, you're kind of just on autopilot. There's like no room for autopilot here. It's like, oh, you got to hit the guy pressing these 3 buttons. You have to let go of them immediately on contact, and you have to press, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just cool.
That's excellent. I like it a lot. Go check out Kaizo Mario World. Was it Quickie World?
Quickie World by Valdio.
Quickie World. I love it. Frank, please. We're all older gentlemen here. Happy birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday, Frank.
You're a year older too. But we want to keep keep down with the kids. So please tell me about what is going on in Fortnite. Is this chapter 4?
So this is, I think,
of season 2.
Yeah, or chapter 4. That sounds right. Yeah, it's the new edition of Fortnite. Fortnite Mega, but basically it's Fortnite anime. Like they're going full anime with this season.
Wow.
So like half the map has been replaced with like Neo Tokyo and like dojos and things like that, like in bonsai trees. There's samurai swords. The battle pass is all these like anime characters and lizard men.
Breaking it, that Asian market.
Yep.
We've got to get that Asian market, man. It's like Mists of Pandaria all over again.
Yes, and Attack on Titan characters are coming in the battle pass. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like seasons of Fortnite can be hit or miss, and this one is like, I feel like they're lasering in on their market, like, or at least maybe the adult. Or no, actually, I feel like a lot of kids and teens and adults are into anime, but it's like, yeah, they're scooping that all up right now, and it works. So, it's good.
What has much changed gameplay wise? I'm watching the trailer now, and they're doing like sort of what was that game? It came up. You mentioned it earlier, and it also came up yesterday when I was talking to somebody. The one with the rails.
Yes, so like
Sunset Overdrive.
Yes, I was gonna say Sonic Adventure, but no, really. So there's rails all over Neo Tokyo. So now people can be grinding and shooting. So it's even more of a movement shooter than ever before. Whereas like before, a lot of the meta was like, I don't know, you would build and then snipe and duck back and forth. But now, last season they introduced, or maybe it's been before, but hammers were a thing where you can like. Added a lot more melee emphasis, and now they have swords, but you can air dash with the swords. So now it's like, the play is so aggressive and fast. And yeah, there's air dashing. It's again super anime and ridiculous. But the grinding, the sword, the movement is really fun. They also added like Akira bikes, so you can even Akira power slide.
Do they have like the laser, like the lights at the back streaming? Or
yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like all the cars look like Cyberpunk. Like every car has like, I don't know, has that like very similar to this.
It's like Neo. It's like future. It's like anime Cyberpunk. Is it like Neo Tokyo?
Yeah, where it's like the future as envisioned in the 80s. Like, so it's really cool. And again, like, I don't know. I think I said this last week as well, but like every time there's a new season of Fortnite, it's great because it's like, I feel like a ton more people give it a new shot. People who dipped out come back and try it again. There'd been a rumor that they might introduce first person mode. That did not come true yet,
wow.
But I kind of hope so because that sounds nuts. But yeah, all the anime stuff in Fortnite is a huge hit for me, so I do like it a lot.
Fortnite, kids, it's the new game. Check it out. Fortnite, not FNITE. You got something else to
Yeah,
say?
and then I
Looks
think
like he's
next
wanted-
week they're introducing Leon and Claire from Resident Evil. They're gonna
No
be bringing.
way.
Yep. So I'm excited.
Who do we want added in? I want Werner Herzog.
I want Werner Herzog's really good. I want Guts from Berserk, but like
Ooh.
like fully like slashing
See-
Goku to little bloody pieces.
He would have the best melee because like every character they get they get like a back bling, they get a pickaxe. So Guts would have the back his melee. The pickaxe would be the giant sword. His back bling would probably be Puck. So that fits perfectly. So
Hell yeah.
yeah.
What Werner Herzog's pickaxe be?
Camera.
Like a tripod.
Tripod,
tripod
yeah, like a
camera.
Sotler tripod.
Yeah, back would be a
Yeah.
film reel maybe, or Klaus Kinski's head. I don't
Klaus
know.
Kinski's on the yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
Amazing.
Oh, that's
A
so good.
boat that he's
Yeah.
dragging behind him
yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Holy shit. That's good. It's good stuff. Good topical Fortnite chat here on the Noclip podcast. That's why you come, folks. We have a bunch of documentaries there out in the wild. Our remaking of The Last of Us Part 1 documentary came out. Well done, everyone here on the call, for doing awesome work on that. Jeremy did a shed load of editing. Frank did a shed load of gameplay capture. We threw it all together. 50 minutes, bit more technical this one. It's more in the if there's like a heart and a brain, and there's like a slider. This one's over in the brain section. It's a bit more of a technical deep dive. But then some of our most popular videos are. The Black Mesa one is largely technical as well. The Demon Souls one.
It's approachable. It's technical, but it's approachable. Like same with the Black Mesa one. I feel like the strength of the Last of Us remake doc is that the people speaking to these technical things speak to them in ways that are like not super jargony. Like there's a little bit of jargon in there, just enough so you're like, yeah, I feel intelligent listening
smart.
to this.
Yeah.
But it's approachable enough that like everything in there feels like it's plain spoken enough that you can appreciate the kind of technical depth that goes into it or something.
Yeah, that's fair. That's true. If you missed our second episode, by the way, of the Hyperlight Breaker series, Heart Machine put out their gameplay trailer on IGN.
It looks so good.
Which was pretty cool. It does. I was Alex was sending me cuts of it because Alex edits those himself.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So he was sending me cuts a couple of weeks back, and I was like, it's really good. This is terrifying that you're doing this yourself still, but okay, go for it. Knock yourself out. They put the trailer up, and I'm just going to check now because there was a lot of trepidation over like what the reaction would be to that, because I think that downstream then definitely has, you know, how they can get an idea of how many people might play it when it comes out in early access and all that sort of stuff. I think they also have a date on the end of it for the first time. I think they said, let me double check it. I think it was Hyperlight Breaker. I keep looking up Drifter by accident. I think it said later than they'd originally said. I have to be careful because obviously I know.
Yeah, no worries. I
things
think
that are
it
outside
said
of this.
fall.
Yeah, fall 2023.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. And I think originally they were saying spring,
Okay.
right? So I think then they're saying fall. Yeah, early access fall 2023 there. Yeah. So yeah, trailer looks good. Cool. 411,000 views in a day.
Nice.
Not bad. That was cool. So I'm glad they got some eyeballs on that. People seem to be interested in it as well. Oh, look, and the inside story of how Hyperlight Breaker became an open world roguelike is #1 suggested. So I have to see if it's like Hades, man. Once that game gets out,
Yeah.
suddenly people will start watching the series and it'll be the biggest thing ever. And all the people who watched it originally will be like, we were here from the start. So it's pretty cool. So congrats to them as well. Go check that out if you're interested. In that, of course, the Vampire Survivors doc is in puppet production at the moment. I'm filming the puppet. Going to spend my time filming the puppet. I'm actually out of town for the next 2 weeks on a family road trip, which I stupidly booked the week of GDC because I love my family and hate my work, clearly, which may be okay. I wanted to do something the week my kid was out of school, something fun because we've not done a proper holiday in a while that isn't like just going back to Ireland. So we're doing like the Grand Canyon and all that. Just going on a road. I'm driving to Phoenix, picking them up, and we're doing like a high desert sort of wonder tour, which should be fun. As a result, next week's podcast is a special Q&A episode that I've already recorded. We had the patrons send in some questions. About an hour and 20 minutes, I think, of me answering lots of questions, lots of deep dive behind the scenes stuff. So that'll be up next week along on YouTube as well. The week after that, I'll probably do it remotely with you guys as well, which we can do thanks to the Riverside system we use here. Not sponsored. Maybe we should get them sponsors. Mention it. Riverside shit until they pay.
Yeah,
us.
we'll hold it. We'll hold their reputation hostage.
Exactly. Yeah. Fucking terrible, archaic software. That's great. It's good stuff. Yeah, remaking Last of Us doc is already up already. Choo Choo Charles and Dwarf Fortress filmed, although Frank is going to continue filming at PAX East next week as well, because they still do GDC and PAX East at the same time, even after COVID. I don't know. Those two people need to fucking have a conversation. Clearly somebody doesn't want to change the date because the like Culinary Association of Boston has the expo the next week, and the San Francisco fucking Shipbreakers Union or something has it the week after. I have no idea. But yeah, we'll have more on that. Jeremy's editing Choo Choo, and I'm editing Dwarf Fortress, so we'll have those, and Vampire Survivors, and also Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition is still being cut by Jesse, so we have loads of cool stuff coming over the next while. And we're also filming another doc in Los Angeles next month as well, which should be a fun one. That it's a little bit more niche again, but kind of I think it'll be a fun experience to film that one. We'll have a good old laugh, and I think that's it. Anything come to mind, you guys? I haven't even talked about all the publishing stuff on Stunt Derby. I just did a video. Me and Alex had an interview this morning, or a conversation this morning, and he was like, just do a video about how hard this all is and how broke I am and how fucking it's hard to get publishers and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, okay. So I just recorded that about an hour ago. So that'll go up on Crew as well, just sort of showing the behind the scenes of what's going on with Stunt Derby and everything while I'm trying to secure funding for that thing, which is, as you can imagine, not particularly easy. Was there anything else on your guys' mind? Any projects or stuff that I've forgotten because I'm so scatterbrained?
No, I feel like you covered it, man. We've got a lot of docs in the pipeline. I feel like it's going to be a real shotgun when they all blast out into your eyeballs.
Yeah.
We're going to shoot a shotgun of documentaries into your eyeballs.
In your face, yeah. Open your mouth. Shotguns come. Documentaries are coming. And wait, what? What have I just said? Ugh. Okay, maybe let's fucking hit the eject button on this podcast. Frank, what are you doing for the rest of your day? It's comic book day.
It is. I got so many good things. I'm very excited. And then I still have to like log all the notes for Dwarf Fortress or log all my footage, but I'll chip at that.
Feel free to be like as if you want to log it, go for it, but it might just be a case where I just have to look at it and figure it out.
I have to find there's one sequence that was insane where I had someone's fortress and I was just recording for a little bit, and then at some point they got raided. So everyone in the village or in the fortress got massacred. All of a sudden, this person's been murdered. This person's been murdered. And I look, and there's just people in armor killing everyone. I'm like, this is awesome.
Fucking elves, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So that I have to like find and mark that because that was exceptional.
Elves don't like it if you kill living things, to the point where even if they don't like if you chop down trees. It makes them angry. Elves are really arseholes in that game. To the point where if you even go to like an elf, like whoever, like king or whatever, with like a gift, or you bring them a gift, if you do it in a wooden box, they'll kill you. Because it's like bringing bringing in like a skull to them. You know what I mean? Like the implication is there. So it's probably who knows? That could be were monkeys. Fucking Dwarf Fortress is just like all over the place. Jeremy, what are you up to for the rest of your day?
Oh man, I've been doing a lot of game dev stuff lately, and reading Berserk. I've read 255 chapters of Berserk in the last 2 weeks. Out of which is there's 370 something chapters, so I've read 2/3 of the entirety of Berserk in the last 2 weeks. So
fair play.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's pretty cool. I like it.
So,
I listened to some audiobooks on my 14-hour drive to Washington.
Any good ones? Any highlights?
I listened to two British celebrities. So you probably you probably know Louis Theroux. I'm guessing,
of course,
because I guess he's also American as well. So I listened to his latest memoir, Through the Keyhole, which was largely about family life in his house in London with him and his wife and his 3 kids during COVID. But it was very good because it was about the creative process and the stress of starting a company and, using alcohol as a crutch and all that sort of stuff. So I really enjoyed that. And then the other one I listened to was Adam Buxton, who is there's a famous or infamous TV show in the UK called The Adam and Joe Show that was very much like kind of Wayne's World, but real, kind of, I would say. Like kind of that type of vibe, very like lo-fi thing. Adam Buxton, he's been in a bunch of movies as well. His Joe from that is Joe Cornish, who is a comedian and director who did a bunch of movies like Attack the Block, and some other ones as well. And they actually both went to school with Louis Theroux, so they're all like buddies. So I also listened to his autobiography, but it was a bit like very funny. He's like the funniest guy. I absolutely love him, and his podcast is hilarious. But it was also about like his dad in his final days of his final weeks and months of his life, and that was a little bit too, a bit sensitive to that sort of stuff. So I was kind of alternating a little bit, but they were both very good. Yeah, I enjoyed them both. So that was good on the long road up to Kitsap County. Third time's a charm. COVID stopped the first one when I got COVID because I was an idiot and played drunk pool with some random people from this town. The second time was actually Zach got COVID. I knew he was sick with something. Turns out it actually was COVID. Him and his wife. And then this time, not only did I not get COVID up there, but I am still testing negative, baby. So I'm feeling good, which is good because we're about to go on vacation. Thanks to everyone for supporting our work. Patreon.com/Noclip. We're going to be doing a funding drive for sure next month because we need to get some fucking patrons in here. All the work that's going on. And the funding is stable but dropping slowly for 2 years. So that means after a certain amount of time, those chickens come home to roost. So gotta shake the cup a little bit here for a while. But please check out the docs. Hope you're enjoying them. Hope you're enjoying the podcast and Noclip crew. Send us your love and support. Tweet your mom and do whatever you want. We'll be back next week. I'll be back next week, and then we'll all be back the week after that. And that's it. Bye.